Hi, folks. Every time I turn on the news, Democrats give me another reminder that they have officially caused common sense to enter the witness protection program. Take AOC, for example. She recently rolled out the welcome mat for Trump voters like she's hosting a spiritual retreat for the politically confused. Apparently, all it takes to enter the Democrat tent is switching from TikTok essays to whatever horoscope app she's using as her policy guide. But on bigger news yesterday, on November 13th, the latest batch of Epstein files dropped. And of course, Democrats wasted no time trying to spin them into a political weapon. Representative Jasmine Crockett immediately jumped in front of the cameras claiming the new emails show Trump was well aware of Epstein's behavior and suggesting the administration intentionally held back certain documents. She took that leap even further by floating the idea that Trump may be a pedo. Not because the files actually say that, but because she's implying that anything still unreleased must be hiding something. Ooh, scary.
Sure that the Department of Justice didn't have this information, and if they didn't have this information, do we know whether or not they actually deleted this information? Do we know that there was a thorough investigation?
What's wrong with her hair?
Do we know whether or not the investigation had concluded? These are all questions that we need answers to, but we can't get them when you're not cooperating. So we don't know what the DOJ has, nor what it is that the DOJ potentially was trying to do. Considering that the president right now is trying to obstruct on some very basics of let's just get a subpoena that says release all the information, I wouldn't be surprised, just like he obstructed the prosecution of one of his henchmen who took $50,000 in taxpayer dollars from undercover officers. I wouldn't be surprised if he sent a message and said, stop investigating. We're done with this. Epstein's dead. I don't want to hear anything else about it.
Do you have any evidence of that claim?
I have no idea. No, that's the whole point. I have no information. And that's why we need these files to be released, because we are looking for transparency, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. Listen, if people decide that they want to continue to support a person who may be a pedophile himself, or a person who obviously is covering for pedophiles, that's on them. But they should know at least the devil that they have decided to pick.
Is there a reason why this woman is walking around with what looks like an anaconda tied to the top of her head and wrapped around half of her body? You can literally see the strain on her face and her neck. Her hair is so heavy, she's practically fighting gravity just to keep her head upright. And honestly, what's even the point? That's not even real hair. She literally strapped on a braid that probably weighs about 30 pounds from the looks of it. Bro, you're a congresswoman. You're there to represent the people, not to cosplay as a decorative tree stump. But all that aside, the bigger issue is this. Trump has a real defamation angle here, folks. A strong one. Because Jasmine Crockett went on air and openly admitted she has zero evidence for anything she's claiming, then turned around and implied Trump may be a pedo anyway. She says she has no information, no proof, no conclusion, nothing. Yet she fills in the blanks with innuendo and moral grandstanding. And this is exactly how today's political culture got so warped, folks. A Democrat wing media ecosystem that rewards accusation over actual evidence, performance over truth, and outrage over accountability. Crockett's comments reveal the larger sickness in our politics, where Democrats can literally go on TV, admit they have no facts, and still feel entitled to shape reality through pure speculation, knowing the institutions around them won't push back. They will literally go on camera and just make stuff up because the ecosystem protects the narrative, not the truth. This is what happens when politics becomes theater and the audience is trained to clap for whatever script the performers decide to improvise on the spot. And speaking of improvising, Nancy Pelosi recently tried to gin up some energy, and let's just say that she OD'd.
And we also, some of us on the immigration issue had traveled to the Northern Triangle a few years ago, and what we found there is one of the reasons people were migrating to the United States is what has been mentioned, and that is they had a drought, the people couldn't farm, so they didn't have a job, and they didn't have the food that farming would produce. Hence, they were coming to the United States. So this is, again, as the Congresswoman mentioned, a migration issue, which is an economic issue. So this is, again, economic, as Congresswoman Castor said.
What are you saying?
It is not only a moral issue, but it is an affordability issue as well.
Rambling Nancy Pelosi is at it again, wandering straight into another climate hoax explanation for why millions of people are pouring into the United States illegally. That's where she's going with this, folks. The drought. Democrats are now calling mass migration climate refugees, which basically means they've lowered the bar for asylum to include unproven climate narratives and political conspiracy theories dressed up as compassion. And yes, Democrats really will take it that far nowadays. They don't care about facts, they don't care about context, and they certainly don't care about how their rhetoric rewrites every global problem into an American obligation. Just make things up to justify the policies they already want. And look, droughts happen in other countries. That's tragic. It matters, but America has no moral or legal obligation to absorb the entire world every time something wrong happens elsewhere. This country has a giant heart. We've welcomed immigrants from every corner of the globe, and that generosity is one of the most beautiful parts of the American story. But we can't save everybody, folks. And pretending we can, especially under the banner of climate change, just puts our own citizens, our own infrastructure, and our own ability to function as a nation at risk. Pelosi's rambling isn't just bad communication. It's a window into the larger left-wing worldview where every crisis becomes America's burden and every border becomes an optional suggestion. That's how you get a country stretched thin, confused about its own purpose, and led by people who treat national sovereignty like an outdated superstition. Because at the end of the day, all they care about is importing a voter base to maintain the control on the levers of power. And since we're on the retard hour, might as well take a pit stop over at AOC's social media, where she's spouting out an even greater level of delusion than ginned up Nancy.
I want to say this right now.
Okay.
I fully welcome
What?
Trump voters into our coalition. And I know that sounds crazy to some people, but just hear me out. I cannot tell you. It just happened to me like 2 weeks ago. I can't tell you how many times someone has pulled me aside and said either I was once a big Trump voter and a Trump supporter and I watched Fox News every day, but then I started to kind of expand my world and where I got information, and now
you're brainwashed.
I've learned, and now I've changed, and I'm with you, and I learn from you.
Lies!
Or people who meet me who are really big Republicans now, and they are shocked when they meet me because they're like, you are nothing like I was told you are. And start to see the cogs turning, that maybe everything that they had been told from this one channel or this one ecosystem isn't the whole truth. And it is enough to spark a curiosity that makes people want to go down a longer journey of learning.
I think it goes without saying that none of what AOC said actually happened. None of these little conversion stories that she's spinning have ever actually taken place. And the reason is simple. It's basically impossible for someone firmly on the Trump side to suddenly wake up one morning, abandon every core American principle they believe in, and decide that socialism and state control sound amazing because AOC and her shrill little activist voice enlighten them. It just doesn't work that way. What does happen, and we all see it, is people on the left drifting right, not because they've become hardcore conservatives, but because Democrats keep moving the goalposts so far into ideological insanity that regular, socially liberal, fiscally moderate, Clinton-era Democrats suddenly find themselves labeled as far right-wing. I know tons of disaffected liberals who now fall on the conservative side by default. But that's beside the point, folks. The real story here is propaganda. AOC's message isn't aimed at the imaginary Trump voters she claims are pulling her aside. It's aimed at the young leftists she's speaking to, giving them this warm, fuzzy narrative that the movement is growing, that doubt is unnecessary, and that people are leaving the big, bad conservative ecosystem and finding the truth in socialism. But the reality is the opposite. Any movement away from the right is statistically negligible, while Democrats across the country are bleeding support, especially among young people, minorities, and independents. Even in deep blue California, recent registration trends show Republicans gaining close to 50,000 new voters, while independents registered over 90,000 and Democrats only registered 190. So what is AOC doing here? She's corralling the troops, folks, keeping her base emotionally soothed, preventing them from questioning the orthodoxy, and reinforcing the illusion of momentum. This is pure emotional appeal dressed up as political storytelling. And it reveals more about the insecurity of this movement than any sort of strength behind it. I've said this time and time again, folks. Democrats hate you. They don't see you as a full human being. They see you as a prop in their political games for power. To them, you're not a citizen, you're leverage. They care about expanding their influence, using you as fuel for growth, and they'll do it by any means necessary, even if it means manipulating you the way AOC was just doing in that clip. So ask yourself, how many of these narratives are designed to inform you, and how many are designed to manage you? How much of what you hear is meant to expand your understanding, and how much is engineered to keep you inside a controlled emotional bubble where doubt is treated like betrayal? And most importantly, if a movement constantly needs to reassure its followers that everything is fine, that momentum is real, that people are waking up, is that behavior of a confident ideology or a collapsing one? These are the questions worth sitting with, because once you start asking them, you begin to see just how much of our political culture today depends not on truth, but on keeping you too distracted to notice what's actually happening. Anyway, you tell me what you think in the comments down below. I hope you have a terrific day. Peace.